get back to the old America, that's got to be the Democrats' part of the bargain. Stop coming up with radically new and often terrible ideas, and then in the next breath insist there be no debate about any of it. That if you don't see it right away and go along, you're bad, stupid, and deplorable. As if you were saying, duh, 2 + 2 = 5. Isn't that obvious? Yeah, it's obvious you can't add. You can't just say shit. Math is racist. Queers for Palestine. Looting is cool. Healthy at any weight. If the men's football team played the women's team, it would be a tie.
The Democrats are on a losing streak, and Bill Maher says he knows exactly why. On a recent episode of Real Time with Bill Maher, the outspoken host didn't hold back, breaking down why he believes the party keeps losing ground across the country. With the midterms approaching and 2028 already on the horizon, Maher warned the DNC could be heading into another turbulent chapter unless it seriously rethinks its strategy. According to him, repeating the same messaging and playbook could prove politically disastrous. So hit that subscribe button, buckle up, and let's dive straight into it.
Of the ones who are, and their cowardice in not marginalizing their own crazies has been their downfall. I couldn't get Neil deGrasse Tyson, a genius scientist and preeminent scientific voice in the media, to agree that it was ridiculous for Scientific American and The Atlantic to be claiming that separating sports by sex doesn't make sense. Yes, it does. Actually, it makes perfect sense. And it's obvious that it does.
I don't think most liberals are insane, Maher said, but they also don't clearly distance themselves from the ones who are. In his view, the failure to call out extreme rhetoric within their own ranks has become a major liability. He even pointed to a debate involving Neil deGrasse Tyson, saying he struggled to get the respected scientist to acknowledge that separating sports by sex makes basic biological sense. For Maher, this wasn't just a cultural disagreement. It was an example of what he sees as common sense being blurred by ideology.
And there's a lot of stuff like that on the left. And when conservatives see it, they say, I'm sorry, we're just not going to go along with reinventing society, often pointlessly, even if we have to cancel democracy to do it. That's what they're saying. They see gender as only a construct and sex is assigned at birth, and they say, we're not doing that. Transing kids by self-diagnosis with no age limit, no parental notification, and no acknowledgement of social contagion, not doing it. Asylum now covers any reason for anyone to come to America, not doing it.
Maher wastes no time exposing what he believes is the Democrats' flawed strategy. To him, it's not just about messaging. It's about aggressively promoting ideas many voters see as detached from science and everyday reality. He argues that when leaders champion concepts viewed as ideological rather than evidence-based, they risk pushing away the political middle. What unsettles him most is when respected intellectual voices appear to validate those debates, creating confusion among voters who expect clarity. His broader point is straightforward. When a party seems more focused on niche cultural battles than kitchen table issues, it shouldn't be surprised when poll numbers stall and momentum fades.
Natural immunity doesn't count anymore. Whiteness is toxic. Penises in women's prisons. Welcoming the intifada. We're not doing it. And so, folks, if we are ever going to get back to the old America, that's got to be the Democrats' part of the bargain. Stop coming up with radically new and often terrible ideas, and then in the next breath insist there be no debate about any of it.
He goes even further, pointing to specific cultural flashpoints he believes are weakening the party's broader appeal. Maher argues that many Americans feel uneasy when long-standing scientific or historical understandings appear to be rapidly redefined. In particular, he highlights debates around youth gender issues, parental involvement, and medical consent, topics that have moved from fringe discussions into the national spotlight. For Maher, these are no longer side conversations. They shape public perception in a major way. His concern is that by leaning heavily into divisive cultural fights, Democrats may alienate moderates who otherwise agree with them on economic and governance priorities.
See it right away and go along, you're bad, stupid, and deplorable. As if you were saying, duh, 2 + 2 = 5. Isn't that obvious? Yeah, it's obvious you can't add. You can't just say shit. Math is racist. Queers for Palestine. Looting is cool. Healthy at any weight? If the men's football team played the women's team, it would be a tie. You can't just say shit.
Ultimately, Maher calls on Democrats to step back from rigid ideological framing and reopen the door to genuine debate. Political strength, he argues, doesn't come from enforcing agreement. It comes from allowing ideas to be challenged openly. Many voters, in his view, feel the party has grown resistant to dissent, creating the impression that only approved viewpoints are welcome. That kind of echo chamber might energize the base, but it risks pushing away independents who value open discussion. For Maher, rebuilding trust requires transparency, honest disagreement, and the confidence to confront uncomfortable conversations head-on.
They have gone out of their way to post messages on social media about the current Trump administration and what's happening to American lives. The problem is they're all literally saying the same damn thing. Don't believe me? Check it out.
I win, I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one.
That ain't true. That's what you just heard. Since day one of Donald Trump's presidency, prices are not down, they're up. Inflation is getting worse. Not better. The prices of grocery, gas, household items, essentials.
Now you see why Stephen A. Smith was in the polls as a presidential candidate? You see what I'm talking about? You see that idiocy right there? You talk about something, people being told.
Maher's frustration centers on rhetoric he believes has grown overly intense. When disagreement is framed as moral failure instead of healthy debate, he argues, it shuts down the exchange democracy depends on. He suggests that labeling critics as ignorant or malicious creates a culture of fear rather than persuasion. Instead of winning people over, it pressures them to conform, and that can backfire. For Maher, lasting political success comes through persuasion, not coercion. When debate disappears and only one perspective dominates, voters may feel excluded, and that sense of exclusion can have serious consequences at the ballot box.
With 22 Democratic senators be literally echoing the same thing and think that would resonate with the American people. All it shows is that the same fabric of our democracy is unchanging in the eyes of some of these officials, and as a result, the constituency they represent, which is why Donald Trump is in office. What, do I have to come up to Capitol Hill and give you lessons? Seriously, you don't get it? Oh, you did. Elizabeth Warren, Cory Booker, Chuck Schumer. Let's all get together. Let's put this in a prompter, and all together, albeit in separate rooms, we'll grab a microphone and say the same damn thing. And that's what's going to resonate with the American people. And then you wonder why you're no longer in power.
Meanwhile, Stephen A. Smith has echoed similar concerns, particularly about the strategy of framing everything Donald Trump does in the harshest possible light. Smith argues that constant outrage loses its impact when it becomes predictable. Democrats leaned heavily on demonizing Trump before, and it didn't stop him from winning. What surprises Smith is that many appear to be doubling down on the same approach. In his view, voters want more than criticism. They want leadership, solutions, and a compelling alternative vision.
Schumer and the typical politicians, inflation is high. Oh, look at them pointing the fingers at the migrants. Oh, look at them blaming immigration. They don't care about you. Oh, by the way, look, they don't care about this. Well, why would you bother people from the LGBTQ community? Why would you bother folks with transgender and all this? Why would you do that? That is what the Democrats say. That's what most politicians would say. Here's Trump. They're pieces of shit. They don't give a about you. It's rigged. They've hoodwinked you all the time. They think you're a freaking joke. They give you the anytime they want to. Here's Trump. Them. They ain't worth.
Smith also criticizes what he sees as performative politics within the DNC's leadership. He argues that too many public moments feel carefully staged for headlines instead of focused on real solutions. Americans are dealing with inflation, job security concerns, and rising costs of living, tangible issues affecting daily life. Yet, Smith believes the party sometimes prioritizes optics over outcomes. Voters, he says, are perceptive. They can tell the difference between authenticity and political theater. And when leaders seem disconnected from everyday struggles, trust erodes quickly.
You know what his followers say? Yeah, that's how we want you talking to those politicians who've been stealing our money all of these years. It's not what he says. It's how he says it. He does it with vitriol and venom to show a disrespect to politicians who the public have no respect for because they feel they've been hoodwinked by those same politicians. He's using it to separate himself from the cesspool that is Capitol Hill. And how does Capitol Hill respond? By showing them they're still Capitol Hill.
Drawing a contrast, Smith says Trump's appeal lies in his directness. Whether people agree with him or not, Trump speaks plainly and projects decisiveness, which resonates with voters who value clarity. In comparison, Smith views the Democratic National Committee's messaging as overly calculated and cautious. That perception can create skepticism about transparency. In today's climate, authenticity has become political currency. Leaders who appear straightforward often gain trust, while those seen as overly managed risk losing credibility.
Amy on The View Tuesday afternoon. Did you see when they said, we don't believe there's a Trump mandate? I said, oh, really? Did you see the former press secretary for the White House come on? I think Stephen A. is wrong. I don't believe what he said is correct. Donald Trump has the lowest approval rating in the first month or so, or 2 months of a presidency in American history. Oh, really? But didn't he win all the swing states? Didn't his popularity elevate within 89% of the counties in the United States of America? Didn't his popularity elevate within the Black community, the Hispanic community, and the young voters?
Smith argues that Maher taps into a broader frustration many Americans feel toward the political establishment. By criticizing leaders across party lines with blunt honesty, Maher positions himself as independent and unafraid. That willingness to challenge authority resonates with viewers who feel unheard. In contrast, when party leadership appears overly restrained, it can come off as hesitation rather than strength. According to Smith, boldness and clarity are what capture attention in a climate defined by distrust. Taken together, the warnings from Maher and Smith paint a serious picture for the Democratic National Committee. From two very different platforms, they point to the same issue: disconnect. Voters want honesty, clarity, and real solutions, not ideological rigidity or endless outrage. Meanwhile, Trump's appeal, they argue, stems from projecting decisiveness and authenticity. Whether critics like it or not, the message is urgent. If Democrats ignore dissent, avoid open debate, and lean into performative politics, they risk losing even more ground. The path forward isn't complicated. Listen, engage honestly, and rebuild trust before frustration turns into long-term rejection at the ballot box. If you found this breakdown insightful, hit that like button, subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.